Hey guys, it's your girl Tiff. Welcome to the Change Talk YouTube channel, the official YouTube channel of Awakening Change Counseling Services. Join us here every Thursday night at 9 p.m. where we'll talk about a host of topics related to behavioral health, leadership, and self-care. Don't forget to hit the button to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends and followers. I'll see you guys soon. Hello, everyone. It is Thursday night, and it's time for another episode of Change Talk. It's been a couple of weeks. My Insta fam, I haven't seen you guys in quite some time because we were doing some interviews, and so we were on the. Some of you joined us on the YouTube channel, but hello to everyone. Welcome back. In case I have some folks here who haven't joined us before, this is Change Talk. My name is Dr. Tiffany Jenkins. I am the founder and CEO of Awakening Change Counseling Services in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And on Thursdays, I jump on and talk about a number of topics that are related to behavioral health. Thank you. Behavioral health, substance abuse, leadership, all of that great stuff. And we last week weren't here. Hello, how are you? Last week we weren't here. We weren't together in this space because I was actually preparing for my graduation ceremony. So I didn't go all the way to Arizona for the ceremony. I decided to recreate it with some friends and loved ones. And we were preparing for that last week. So, yeah. But we're back and ready to jump in today. It's interesting because the topic that I initially picked for this evening came out of some very disturbing headlines. And as that story has developed and some new information has developed, what was going to be a very ranty show tonight, I hate to call it that, is gonna change to a little something else. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Is going to be something else. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, then you have maybe, not going to assume, you have maybe been hearing about two developments that have been in the news. So the first is that on one of the SEPTA L trains on last week, there was a young lady who was sexually assaulted. And the initial report said that there were bystanders who were all watching this take place and who were kind of holding up their cell phones and videoing everything, and that no one intervened to assist this young lady with with what was happening to her. The most recent reports, however, that have come out that said that um, was a misrepresentation of what happened. That there wasn't anyone who was videoing this act taking place, and so that was a little bit of an exaggeration. There's some speculation taking place about why the story was exaggerated in that way. Really, it doesn't matter. The fact is that this happened during the day. It wasn't in some shady corner, in the middle of the night or anything like that. And one of the things that I wanted to just give some space to talk about today is how we can look out for one another, how we can take care of ourselves, because it can be rough out in these streets these days. And so one of the things that I want to talk about is I want to just share some some tips and some resources so that we can be more aware of our surroundings, so that we can take better care of ourselves. And honestly, this is applicable for both men and women, because there's a lot of, if you look at any given headline, there's a lot of violence. Another story that I saw last week was of a 16-year-old young lady who was robbed um, by an adult. She was the young lady, again, commuting, and um, was assaulted and robbed. And it's really sad that we've got stories like this that are coming out. I mean, it seems to be our news cycle now, right? Like, you have to look for the good, and I do believe that there is still good in the world. I still believe that people are, hey there. I still believe that there are people who are good and who are um upstanding, and people who want to do the right thing, and for whatever reason, I don't think they get as much airtime. However, I want us to think about um how we can make sure that if we're seeing something take place, if we see something suspicious, we have to kind of trust our gut. You have to go with your first instinct. Um, Speak up. If you see something, say something. If someone doesn't seem to be okay, maybe go, if you're on public transportation, go and, you know, do an anonymous tip, send out some information. I think that what disturbs me the most about this information that's coming out in the news cycles is, regardless of if anyone was videoing or not videoing or whatever the case may be, um, I think we need to encourage each other not to, you know, commuting alone is not something necessarily you can help, but trying to be places that are a little bit more populated, having something with you. There's a company that a sister friend of mine is a representative for, called Damsel in Defense. And they make all kinds of um self-defense products for women. And they specialize really in helping women to protect themselves against attacks and assault. Going and looking at something like that, making sure that you're protected, making sure if you're walking to your car that you've got your keys out, that you're not fumbling for anything. This is, I hate to say it, but it's getting darker earlier. And I really want to make sure that we're using wisdom and how we're moving about, especially because this is, as it's starting to get darker a little bit earlier, people who don't mean us the best are going to be out too. And I don't want this to turn into a gloom and doom talk tonight, but I do want to make sure that I'm reminding you that you have a responsibility for your own safety, right? We talk about self-care a lot here on the show. We are always talking about ways that we can practice good self-care. Well, environmental self-care is also being aware of your surroundings and knowing what's going on, right? If you're walking around all the time and you're texting, or you're FaceTiming and your face is down on your phone, you're not aware of what's going on around you. You have no environmental awareness. Um, Stay off our phones, be aware of our surroundings. Literally just said the same thing. Um, I need us to be more aware. I need us to be more alert, because I'm tired of hearing stories like this in the news. I really am. And as much as we sometimes want to be seen as like super strong and independent, and trust me, I'm an independent woman all day. There's also a level of um, I don't want to say common sense, but just like spatial awareness, really, that we have to practice. You have to understand that not everyone is well intentioned, and we do have this element around us. In the city of Philadelphia, the numbers of violence, the gun violence in general, is like skyrocketing. We keep hearing these these stories in this rotation, and I felt that it was appropriate to kind of just interject this conversation tonight, and talk about some of this stuff. Yes, don't stop and read notes on your windshield. That's another thing. If you get a note on your windshield, don't just get in your car. You can read it later or turn the windshield wipers on and let it fly wherever it flies. But I cannot stress enough that I think it's important for us to not only take these precautions for ourselves, but encourage our sister friends to do the same. None of us wants to get a call or a text, or even worse, to see a headline with a loved one's name or picture in it. And I think that there are some things that we can do to reduce the likelihood of something like this happening. Again, everybody does not have the best of intentions, and so you can't control what other people do, but what you can do is take the necessary steps to take care of yourself. Especially because there's something called the bystander effect, which in public places, when something happens in public places, people are less likely to do anything if they don't see other people doing anything, right? So you would think that the more people that are around, that somebody would say something. No, you've got to take care of yourself, because there's no guarantee that somebody is going to speak up for you and come to your aid or come to your rescue. So I just it's very disturbing, some of what we see in the most recent news cycles, and I think it's very important. Yes, we talk about self-care, but some of that self-care is, just these basic personal safety things. Um, knowing, try to park in very well lit areas. If you're someone who has to commute, try to park somewhere that's well lit. Try to sit in the car that's closest to the conductor, or where security might be, where cameras are. Try to, just little things, making sure that we don't have these big, huge bags, like 6 or 7 bags that we're trying to take, you know, keep up with, and that are weighing us down, that we've got our keys in our hand, that we know everything that's going on around us as much as possible, that, you know, even if I know sometimes if I'm somewhere and it's dark and it looks a little suspicious, I'll put one earphone in, not both of them, and I'll talk to someone while I'm going to the car. Put the phone in my pocket and have someone on the other end that's kind of walking with me and talking with me, as I'm going through these spaces. I think it's important that we start thinking outside the box and getting creative on how we can protect ourselves, especially because a lot of folks are going back into the office. Folks are having to commute again. There's, and then there's the typical, I don't know how typical this holiday is going to be, but like even when you're holiday shopping, they tell you about not, um, not having, both hands when it's especially when it gets cold, not having everything all in your pockets all at once, being able to have one hand free. There's a ton of things that we can do that just help us to be a little bit more aware. A friend of mine was sharing that a couple of months ago, she went into a Walmart. She's not from New Jersey. She went into a Walmart, and there was somebody kind of lurking around and kind of made a gesture when she walked out. She went back into the store and got security, and they saw this person jump into a van that was a little bit further in the parking lot when she first came in. My sister in North Carolina was approached by someone who she didn't know, who tried to get her to let him in the car when she was just sitting at the park, just trying to get some peace and kind of decompress. So these dangers are all around us. Thankfully for her, she was able to, roll up the window and get away and was safe. But these dangers are all around us, and I don't want to hear about anybody in our change fam getting caught up in any of this violence. So my whole pitch to you tonight is to make sure that you are taking care of yourself in this way as well, Make sure that you are being safe. Make sure that you are being proactive. Make sure that someone knows where you are. Um, I know that, that might be a stretch for some folks. I'm grown and I don't have to tell anybody anything, but make sure someone knows where you are so that if you're not where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, there's someone who can, send off an alarm. Um, these are things that we used to talk about a lot when we were in like kindergarten. We used to talk about stranger danger, right? And we used to kind of rehearse all of these things when we were younger. Our parents used to tell us over and over and over again. And I think sometimes what happens is that as we get older, we kind of take for granted that these stranger dangers are still there. Even though we're adults, they're still here. They're still very much here. And I think that sometimes they're more present for us as adults because we've lost that heightened sense of awareness, because we're not as, diligent about making sure that we're okay. We assume that because we're adults that, we're okay and we can fend for ourselves, but that's not always the case. Human trafficking is real. A couple months ago, we were joined by Miss Sakina Love, and she talked to us about her organization in Philadelphia, Redeemed for a Cause, and the work that they're doing. Human trafficking is still very real, and adults, as well as younger teens and young children, can still be affected. So, that's my pitch for today. Next week, we'll get back into our Survivor series. I'm going to have a guest with me who's going to share her experiences of some trauma that she survived. But it was really heavy on my heart tonight to really share just some thoughts, some tips, some suggestions on how we can take care of ourselves. Um, we gotta go back to those stranger danger days. We've got to protect ourselves. We've got to be aware of our surroundings and our environment, not just for our children, but for ourselves as well. So, thank you. So, that is really all I have for tonight. Like I said, next week we'll be back on our Survivor series. I realize that we are at episode number 47. That means we've been doing this Change Talk thing for a whole year now. So, we've got a couple of guests lined up through November, and then we're gonna take a little bit of a break to reset. So hopefully next week you guys will join us to my Change Fam that's on Insta. Next week's interview will be on YouTube. We can't do it just because of the platform on Instagram, but next week at 9 we will be on YouTube. Okay, so hopefully you guys can come back in. If, as always, if there's any information, any topic that you'd like to see covered, I invite you to go to the website, which is newly redesigned and looks absolutely amazing. So if you have not visited the recently redesigned website, I would encourage you to go there, www.awakeningchange.org. And then we're going to be back with our Survivor series next week. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can drop them to my Instafam right in my inbox. For my YouTube family, just leave a comment and I'll reach out to you. Or again, we have a contact us page at www.awakeningchange.org. So until next week, I want you to please take care of yourselves. Please be safe. Keep washing your hands, keep social distancing, stay safe and be well. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next week. All right. Bye bye.